All right. So again, we've got another week with only two hosts. Now, last week it was Sanjay and I. The week before that, who was it? It was it you and Baron?
It was me and Baron. Yeah.
Yeah. And then before that, I think it was me and you. So this has become a duos podcast. And you know what? We're gonna do it right. Because you know what? There's always an excuse with Sanjay, right? Apparently he dropped an egg on the ground and like it's taking the day to since breakfast to clean that up. He's using a spatula and spit shine. So that's happening. Baron's pieced out to wherever Baron goes. I I don't really know what's up with that guy half the time anyways. So
The
yeah.
man of mystery.
Yeah, but with that, we've got a week off. I don't know about you, how much you've got off. You had today for sure, but I've got this week off. I'm a teacher.
Yeah, definitely not a week. Not like you
So,
teachers.
right. So lucky. Well, I'm battling a cold, so this couldn't have come at a better time. So let's get right into it. I'm Adam. That's
I'm
Ryan.
Ryan.
Yes, and this is Delayed Offside. All right. Now, little side note here. I went and saw the Pats play a couple nights ago, Saturday. They played the Winnipeg Ice. And my God, before we dive into things, Connor Bedard is insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Had a shorthanded goal, like just toe drug around the defender.
My dad was at that game. Both my parents.
Deked out the goaltender and just tucked it home.
They were telling me about that goal.
Oh, and it had 2 assists. The assist on the first goal, he just had 3 guys around him and he created such room and the guy just bang, barred down. They did lose, but man, was it worth it? I left satisfied, really happy that I spent the money I did to go watch the Pats play and to see Connor Bedard. So what was your experience like with him?
Oh, it was incredible. Actually, the first few shifts, I wasn't too impressed. He made some sloppy passes, and it wasn't too impressive. And then all of a sudden, just they were on. I think it was a power play, and he deked the defenseman out of his shorts. The guy like basically fell to the ice, and he went around him and tucked her home. And he ended up getting. Did he get a hat trick that game? I think he got a hat trick. He got a hat trick that game.
Yeah.
And the Pats still ended up losing, but he is something else. And what do you think, Adam? I've been hearing a lot of back and forth with people about how they think he'll do in his first year in the NHL. I've heard a lot of talk about how it's going to take him some time because of his size. What do you think?
I think he will adjust fairly quickly, a little quicker than most think. But I do think there is going to be an adjustment because you look at all those guys on the ice at this level, and they're all fairly small. There's only a couple bigger guys out there at the WHL level, which might be a sign like that everything's moving skill wise, right, as opposed to that big body style. But I'm interested to see how his first year will go. Is he just going to be like a 50-point player at that point, like in his first year?
Personally, I think he's going to be close to a point per game. I think so. And I know he's short. I know he is. I think he's 5'9".
Yeah.
But he's not small. I think right now he weighs like 185, 190.
Right.
Like what I've heard, his legs are like tree trunks. They're like Sidney Crosby or like Martin St. Louis size legs. Like the guy is thick.
And he's smart.
And his IQ, because even the first year he was in the World Juniors, watching him play, I wasn't too impressed with his speed in that first tournament, or his flashiness or anything. But just the calmness he had with the puck, like it never felt like he was overwhelmed by the moment. It felt like he always knew what to do, was always making the smart play. And I think you might see that in his first year. Like he might not dazzle you, and you might not see a whole lot of like highlight reel goals from him, but I think he'll make the smart play every time. And I think he's going to go to a bad team, so he might not have the best teammates to play with, but it just depends where he goes. Like if he goes to Anaheim and he has Trevor Zegras to play with, like those, like then, like if he has a few dynamite players at least to pair up with, I think you could see him put up a point per game, because I think he's going to be bigger than in terms of weight than Connor McDavid was going into his first year in the NHL. And McDavid had no troubles. He put up what did he do in his rookie year? How many points?
He was good, man.
Was he like a 100-point player his first year?
That's a good question. I
think he wasn't he? Crosby was. I know Crosby was when he first came in.
Let me look it up.
And like we're talking about a generational player here. We're not talking about like, he's pretty good. Like this kid set records at the World Juniors for Team Canada. He set records at the World Juniors for just like all countries. Like the guy's legit. And
okay, here we go.
Something special.
So McDavid got injured, or was that a shortened season? Might have been a shortened season, or he got injured. 2015, 45 games played, 48 points.
Yeah.
16 goals, 32 assists.
Like I feel like he's going to be a point per game player coming in. And I've heard lots of people, I've heard lots of guys say, nope, 50, 60 points. And that might be true.
Yeah.
But like, I know he's short, but to me, weight's the bigger thing, especially at forward, right? Like, I mean,
he's solid.
What does the extra height advantage get you other than like a better reach for the puck, right? Which I would think would help more as a defenseman if you're trying to like, poke the check away from guys. Having that wingspan helps a lot more. Obviously, like if you can reach for the puck and get it a little easier, I suppose. But I think it's the weight, like not being able to be knocked off the puck. And if he's already 185 at the age of 17, what he is, 17 years old, he's 185. Like he's going to end up being like a 200-pound player by the time he's in his 20s.
Oh, exactly.
So I'm not worried about his weight. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's stronger than a lot of people think. And then with that shot of his, like he has a really good shot.
Unreal.
And he's quicker than I thought he was too. Like he's not obviously McDavid fast, but the things he can do at high speeds with that puck is McDavid-esque.
Yeah. Now listen to this. McDavid, 100 points second year, third year 108, 116, 97 in the shortened season where they only played 64 games. Could have easily, that would have been a 100-point season. Then 105, 123, and so far this year he's sitting at 102. Does he break 130 points this year?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh yeah.
I think he pushes.
I think the bigger question is he going to break 140? Like I don't think there's any question he's going to break 130 points.
And I think he'll push 150.
Like what's he on pace for right now?
Let's see. How do I find that out?
Well, you take however many points he has, divide it by however many games he's played, then multiply that by 82.
102 divided by 57 equals,
and then times 82.
He's sitting at 146, man. That's pushing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it has slowed down since the beginning. Cause I remember at one point he was on pace for 158 points. I think we were talking at one point, and like at one point in terms of goals, he was on pace for like 70 some goals.
Yeah.
Right?
And I wonder.
And now he's on pace for, I think, like 43. I think I just looked up this for some reason not that long ago. I think he's on pace for like 43 goals now. So, I mean, his production has dropped since his torrid start. But, I mean, this is still, he's 20 points up on second place in the points race. Like, we haven't seen
43 goals.
I think he's on pace for 43 goals.
He's got 42 goals right now.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh,
guy's got 42, and the next person.
Never mind then.
Pasternak with 37. Maybe it's 52 or 60.
Oh, maybe that's what I wonder. Okay, maybe.
I was like, I swore he had 40.
Yeah, I'm obviously, maybe it was 52 then or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
Interesting.
Obviously, I'm forgetting my math.
Right.
I obviously didn't prepare for that.
No, that's all good. We didn't talk about.
Oh, you know what it was? You know what it was? I was looking to see if he was still on pace to pass 60 goals, and he wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't think. I mean, you can do the math right now, but anyways, but at one point he was on pace for like 70 some goals. So I mean, that's dropped as well.
Well, like 18, he needs 18 goals in. What are we sitting at? About
30 games.
No, like 20,
how many games has he played? 50,
57.
Oh, so less.
About 22 games, right?
25,
24, 25. He could do it. He could go on a bit of a tear.
He could.
We'll see. I think there's a sickness ripping through that dressing room. I know there is, but I'm wondering if he's feeling it a bit right now too.
Could be. I mean, he was going at such a high pace that you felt that the production had to slow down even somewhat. Like the fact that he's been able to keep up the pace that he has, even if it is not at that, as steady of a pace or as tore of a pace at the beginning of the season, is still remarkable because, like I said, he's still 20 points up on second place in the NHL. Like we haven't seen that level of dominance since Lemieux, probably.
Right. Yeah.
Like, did Yager ever have that sort of dominance in terms of? I don't think so, because I think Lindros was always like right behind him. But at least Lemieux. Like I remember my dad telling me when they would do fantasy pools, you could only pick either assists or goals for Gretzky and Lemieux. You couldn't just take the player because it was too unfair. And I have McDavid this year in our fantasy pool.
Insane.
And if it continues, like, I mean, this is 1 year, but I mean, if it happens again where he's this far ahead, like we might have to start considering doing that for McDavid, because it's not fair if you get the first overall pick and you're 20 points up on the second overall pick. Like that's just insane.
Right. Now speaking of picks, we're going to move over, and there was a blockbuster trade between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the St. Louis Blues and a little bit in the Minnesota Wild over the past weekend here. Now, I haven't quite looked at the full breakdown of the trade because there's a lot of picks going there, a lot of prospects, but the Toronto Maple Leafs ultimately got Ryan O'Reilly and
Noel Acciari. Yeah.
Now, what does this do for the Maple Leafs, Ryan?
What does this do? Well, I mean, it gives them more depth. It basically, for me at least, it was quite obvious that David Kampf was not adequate in that third center role. He's a great defensive player, but the problem that the Leafs had was who was going to score in the bottom six. It was a bunch of defensive players who could at least like keep even potentially with the other team. But when it comes to playoff time, you need those lines to get a goal now and then.
Yeah.
And the offense just wasn't there. David Kampf is not going to get you a lot of timely goals. Move him down. That moves him down to the fourth line, where that's where he should be. And that makes him an extremely good fourth line center. And now you could put Ryan O'Reilly at 3C. And now not only is Ryan O'Reilly a former Selke winner and obviously very good defensively, but he can actually, well, and that's another aspect I'll get into, but just in terms of what he brings to the table now, like you already had Kampf, who was a good, 200-foot player in that, he could shut down other teams. O'Reilly can do that, but he can also produce offensively. And I was a little nervous when I heard the news at first, because O'Reilly's having like the worst season of his career.
Right.
And because of that, in his age, I was just worried that, like, is this just, he's on a bad team and he's in a bit of a funk, or is he just not the Ryan O'Reilly that took the St. Louis Blues to the Cup win?
Right.
But after the trade happened, there was a bunch of articles diving into like his analytics, and it looks like he's still producing a lot of offense. It's just his teammates aren't finishing. Right. So if he has some better line mates And also, if he's playing at the 3C spot, he's going to be seeing lesser competition. He won't be seeing the other team's like top centerman lining up against him or the other team's top defenseman. He should have an easier time at producing offense that way as well.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen. Right now, Keefe is having him play second line center and has moved Tavares over to the wing, which that's also an option that Keefe can go to as well, because the Leafs second line left wing spot has just been like a rotating cast of guys, and it hasn't really worked out. And so it gives Keefe that option as well. When the team's really trying to push for a goal, bump O'Reilly up to that second line spot, move Tavares over to the wing, and load that line up to try to get a goal. So it creates a lot of flexibility.
Yeah,
it gives Matthews and Tavares. It takes away some of the responsibility of playing defensively and having to check other teams' top lines. That can go to O'Reilly. It provides more offense throughout the lineup. So I think it overall really will help the Leafs. And then you mentioned it, the X factor, the fact that he's won a cup, he's won a Conn Smythe, not just a cup, but he was the best player on the St. Louis Blues that won the Stanley Cup. And you take a look at his statistics in the playoffs, it's like a point per game, pretty close too, in terms of his offensive production in the playoffs. And that is also something the Leafs have struggled with, is being able to get offense, to be able to get those timely goals. And so hopefully O'Reilly can provide that. And then to top it off, you add Acciari, who is 5th in the league in hits, I believe. And he's going to bring an element of grit, and he's also very good defensively. He's going to help on the PK. He's great at taking faceoffs. He's a right-handed centerman. So to help with those faceoffs, we need a right-handed guy. That's going to really help. He'll help with the PK. He'll help provide grit and physicality and energy, and provide a bit more of a checking force on whichever line he's going to be in the bottom six. And he's actually done fairly well offensively this year too. So maybe he'll be able to provide some more offense in the bottom six. So to me, it's really bolstered their bottom six. Right. It's giving Keith a few more options to also bolster that second line when need be. It'll be interesting to see what the Leafs do from here, because they still have some cap room. And if they really wanted to, they could trade someone like Alex Kerfoot, who to me is really overpaid at $3.5 million to be a third line, on the third line wing or fourth line wing. Like, you could trade that 3.5 mil. Someone tweeted this. If you still wanted Patrick Kane, get Chicago to eat 50%, get another team to 25%, and his would be less than what Kerfoot makes. And then you trade Kerfoot in it. You could actually make that work if you want to continue to unload futures, more draft picks, or even like some of their top prospects.
Yeah.
It's something that they could do. And then if they wanted to do that, I don't think they will, but if they wanted to, then you could get someone like a Patrick Kane or a Timo Meier on that second line already. And then you don't have to switch back and forth with moving O'Reilly up to the second line spot and third line. You can just load it up if you want right off the bat. Or I think they're still going to try to add some size and physicality on the defensive defenseman with some size and physicality. I think that's what they're going to do. Now, I still hope Luke Schenn.
Okay. Now, with the move that Dubas just made, he's obviously mortgaging the future. He knows his time is up if they don't win or at least get past that first round. Mm-hmm. So do you think he has like the go ahead to mortgage more? Because what he gave up was Mikhail Abramov. I'm not sure I said that wrong. Adam Gaudette, Toronto's first round pick in the 23 draft, Ottawa's third round pick in the 23 draft, and Toronto's second round pick in the 24 draft. And Minnesota receives Toronto's fourth round pick in the 25 draft. Mm-hmm. Now he's just dished out 4 separate picks.
Yep.
That first round one is massive this year because it's a deep draft. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think he's got the go ahead to spend more? or like, what are your thoughts on him unloading all those picks?
I think at some point you have to go for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever, I mean, he did deal a first round pick for Foligno that one year, which was an overpay.
That's another question. How is this different than Foligno?
How is this different for Foligno? Well, I mean, number one, O'Reilly's a better player than Foligno is.
Yeah.
Even if he is having a down year, I mean, he's just an overall better player. But the thing with Foligno, like everyone points to the Foligno trade and being like, that was, it was a fail. It was a fail. Foligno got hurt. Yeah. Like and it was a separate injury. It was a different injury than what he was injured with before he came to the Leafs. Like he got injured before the trade. Dubas checked in on him. Supposedly he was good to go. He came over. He played, I think, like 8 games. I thought he was looking fairly decent. I really thought that they were going to bring Foligno in, and I'm sorry, I'm going way off track here, but I thought they were going to bring Foligno in for the third line center spot. But they couldn't play him there because who was third line center at that time? Was it like Kerfoot maybe was injured.
Okay.
And so, or no, whoever played second line wing was injured or something. So they were, anyways, I really thought they were going to try Foligno a third line center, and they never got him in there. And then obviously he got hurt and never could play, and it ended up being a failure. But I mean, that's just bad luck. Like you don't know how it would have turned out if he could have been healthy. Now, getting back to O'Reilly, I mean, hopefully this time you have some luck on your side, right? Like, I mean, if O'Reilly ends up getting injured, then it is like Foligno. But if he can stay healthy, then now you actually can see what he can bring to the table. So, and like, I think that's out of Dubas's hands. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just the fate, the will of the hockey gods, and we'll see. But, and the fact that he is like a legitimate center is another thing, right?
Right.
In that, you can never have too many centermen. Yeah. So that I would say that's how it's different than Foligno. And O'Reilly was great offensively just last year, right? Like with Foligno, it had been a few years since he had been able to produce offensively, and they weren't getting Foligno for offense at all. They were getting him for grit and defensive play, and that was it. I think they're bringing O'Reilly in to produce some offense for them as well.
Sweet. Now, where does where does Patrick Kane end up now? Because there were rumors about him and the Rangers. That seems kibosh now because Tarasenko move was made, and it seems like that's been a really great fit for them, and they look like a scary contender for the Cup this year. Now, and then all of a sudden this move's made with Toronto, which was like a second choice team as well, another high up choice for Patrick Kane. Why do I keep saying that? Anyways, where does he go from here? Is he going to end up in like one of these 3 big markets where Elliot Friedman kind of says there's smoke? Like, I believe the 3 were, I can't remember the first one, but there was Edmonton, there was Dallas, and I want to say LA was the other one, but I'm not. Vegas. It was Vegas, Dallas, or Edmonton were on his radar. What do you think?
Edmonton, really?
Yes, Edmonton was one.
I'm shocked. No offense. Well, I guess, if you want to play with Connor McDavid, see, Edmonton's an interesting one because how much cap do they have right now? 0?
That's a really great question. I know they have to do some juggling. There would have to be players going in the other direction that carry some cap. Whether that's like a Foligno, for the love of God. Whether that is, I'm having trouble. I'm struggling here. Fogel or Puljujarvi is where I was going.
Right. Yeah. And you'd have to bring in like a third team, right, to get 75%.
Yes. And that would be kind of the same thing as like, what we've heard with Carlson as well, which isn't impossible, but it is a bit of a stretch. So
yeah, their current cap space right now is $562,500. So yeah, definitely not a lot there.
Right. And I think the guy with the most value out of those 3 right now that I mentioned is Warren Foegele, who's been playing arguably great and scoring, producing on that third line with McLeod And I believe it's either Puljujarvi on there or Janmark who's down there. You know, Puljujarvi's had his struggles, and we've seen it throughout his career. And then Yamamoto, all I hear is Yamamoto is great in the dressing room, but I'm not seeing much else. Right? So
yeah.
what goes? That's always my question.
Did you say Vegas?
I said Vegas was what Friedman had said.
Yeah.
Dallas is what Friedman said as well, and Edmonton.
Okay.
Being in the mix.
Yeah, I don't know. I was going to say Vegas just because like Mark Stone's out.
That would make sense, yeah.
But I'm just looking at their cap situation. It doesn't look like they have a lot either. Do they even have Mark Stone on? I mean, regardless, you'd have to. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team that. See, like you say, Edmonton. Let's talk Edmonton first because I find that the most interesting.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of guy that they need? You know, like, I mean, is that even if you want to go to Edmonton, does Edmonton want Patrick Kane? Because Patty Kane isn't a guaranteed home run either. He's having a really down year. I mean, he just scored a hat trick against the Leafs
and had a game with 2 goals before that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's showing people that, yes, I can still play this game. And yes, my hip is fine. Thank you very much. I've just been miserable and hating hockey for this past season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's Patrick Kane, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to say like you don't want to bring him in, but for Edmonton, I mean, they're already the top offensive team in the league. Like, what is their biggest weakness?
Well, apparently they could use more offense, Ryan, because their biggest weakness right now is that of one of two things. Is it defense or is it goaltending? Now, their defense we've seen can be strong. It seems like once, Keith was gone, though, they unraveled a bit at the beginning of the year. Then they tightened it up. And now it's like almost we're seeing the same thing. They're not really playing that tight defense. They're not challenging the puck. They're kind of letting guys walk in. And then that brings the second problem. Can the goalie make the stop? Now, Jack Campbell has played well since the new year. He's done great, but like last
2 games,
I was so frustrated with him. He's trying to freeze the puck on the post, not reaching over with his blocker to grab it, not reaching over with his, to try to just stop it. Instead, he's letting guys poke at it, right? He could have, to me, I think a goaltender's fast enough that he could pounce on that puck right away with his blocker. He had enough time to do that, it seemed to me. But then, it's just like a crumpling, and it's
confidence, man. It's he gets it in spurts, and he looks like a world beater for a while. Like I really wanted to think like he could become a legit number one.
Yeah. What I just don't know. And what I don't like about him, and what I see a lot of, is he goes down fairly easy. And then the whole top of the net is open. He's on his stomach. He's trying to make a desperation save. He's got to do that with his head, which he did. He's got to do that with his glove, which he did. He doesn't hug the post regularly either, which creates, goals and openings in between that short side. It's just been kind of weird because it's not really what you see from a starting goaltender.
What's going on with Skinner right now?
Skinner's got that illness that's going through.
Okay.
He was on the bench yesterday. So we got Klim Kostin who had it. Desharnais had it. Man, it's just tearing. I'm pretty sure Kane has it now. He wasn't in last game. It's just ripping through. And I'm glad it's ripping through right now as opposed to playoff time, because that would be a nightmare.
Right. But, of course. Yeah.
Back to Kane, Patrick Kane, he would bring more offense. I think he would bring more.
Well, he would bring more offense.
Absolutely. He brings that leadership quality as well. The cup.
He brings a lot to the table, right?
Leadership. But
what? It's just like them talking about going after Erik Karlsson. It's just one of those. It's like, okay, let's just load up on what we're good at and get even better at it, and we're going to beat you 6-5 every night, and you're not going to be able to stop us. That's because I don't think they're good enough defensively. I think they've played some decent defensive hockey.
There hasn't been a shutout yet. There hasn't been, as a team.
You even look at the amount of shots they give up per game and scoring chances. It's too much. They give up
Yeah.
too much. And yes, they have an elite power play. They have an elite offense, and it gets them out of trouble a lot. And like they have played during this hot stretch better defensively, quite well defensively actually. But I mean, let's be fair, or let's be truthful here. A lot of those wins in this hot streak have been against bottom feeders. Quite a few of them.
With the Oilers,
yeah.
Their road trip for sure. They went 2-1-1, but like, hey,
since the All-Star break, didn't they have like a stretch where it was like eight teams in a row that were all non-playoff teams? Like they've had an easier stretch the second half, right? They had a harder schedule the first half, and they struggled. Yeah. Second half, they've had a lot easier time with easier teams, and now like they have the opposite of what the Leafs have. The Leafs, for some reason, have struggled against playing bottom feeders. They really struggle. They do better against top teams. Edmonton's the opposite. Bottom feeders still feast on them. They'll feast on them.
No, that's not necessarily true, Ryan. A lot of times this year, like they've lost to the Ducks, they've lost to the Coyotes. Man, it's like they play down. It's like they play down to that skill level, and then once they play higher ranking teams, they're closer. The matchups are closer, and it's really weird. I wish Barron was here because he would back that point up as well. That they tend to.
I'm just saying during I'm just saying like during their hot streak, it was a lot of bottom feeders, and they were winning the games they needed to win, and they were winning them.
Yeah.
Like they weren't on a what?
That's what they should be
7-game win streak or 6-game win streak. Didn't they go on? Like they were on a heater.
Yeah, they went. I believe it was 8-0-2.
Right.
Yeah,
and like I said, majority of those were teams not in the playoffs, and those teams that were, I think they usually got on the back of a back-to-back. So, again, props. You beat who you need to beat. Still, though, that could be why the defensive analytics were looking a lot better, because you're not playing those top tier teams necessarily. And now these past few games, they've been like Colorado was 6-5, and what was the game before that?
Oh geez, Colorado, and it was who was it?
It was another high scoring game though.
Let me see. Yeah, and it was brutal because Edmonton keeps giving up these stupid.
And it was like another overtime loss, wasn't it?
It was the Rangers. It wasn't a bottom team. Hey, like
No, it wasn't a bottom team. No, these are top teams.
Yeah, it was 5-4 in the shootout, and it was 4-1 at one point. So 4-1 at the end of the first period.
So like there you go. Like, can they play well defensively against a good team? And that's what we need to see. And I look at the players they have on defense, and I just think it's missing a little something there. I think they need a legitimate defensive defenseman who's big and powerful and can keep guys out from the net.
And that's Vinny Desharnais. They have not lost a game in regulation with Vinny Desharnais in the lineup. They're 8-0-2, or what are they? 9-0-2 with him in the lineup, I believe. It's insane. And he's a big guy.
Is he a rookie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a hard-nosed guy that plays for their farm team. They pulled him up, and he's just huge and like clears the net, which is nice because, you get Nurse, who I do really like, but he tends to just sit there, let guys walk in and try to block it. Well, these guys are professionals. You can't just do that. They know where to shoot, Darnell. Yeah. And, CC's been silent, but fairly steady. I really like that Kulak-Berry pairing. Berry had a bad pass over to Skinner a couple games ago that led to a goal. But he hasn't had any really glaring issues. And then the last pairing of like Broberg and Bouchard have been okay. But like as a team defensively, watch Draisaitl back check.
Yeah.
It is piss poor this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
it's
and that's
disgusting.
kind of the thing too, is you have McDavid who's 20 points up on second place. You have Draisaitl who's second place in the league still in points.
Yeah.
And they're plus minus. And I know people scoff at plus minus as a stat, but still their plus minus is like +4, something like that. Like it's insane that you could have that many points
Oh yeah,
and still only barely outproduce the other team at 5-on-5.
that's right. It's insane.
Because plus minus doesn't take into account power play goals.
Yeah.
Unless it's against you. So it's showing, great. You guys can produce on the power play, but you're going to need to beat a team at 5-on-5.
I would also say, Ryan, quickly, I know we've only got about 2.5 minutes left, but they're struggling to get the puck out of their zone. And that comes from the defense as well. There's been a number of times where Nurse is icing it. Find a guy, move it.
Maybe that's why they want Carlson, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I think.
To make that outlet pass.
They're really struggling when they get hemmed in. And it's like, ooh, come on, get the puck out, find a guy. Like,
there you go. Maybe that's just all they need is a good transition defenseman.
Yeah. God, this episode has flown by.
It really has. Yeah. It's been like 2 topics.
Yeah. Exactly. And you know what? It's been fun though, because there's a lot of buzz around that. And you know what? We should try to get one going again in another week, because that's where it's going to really come down to the wire as well.
It's like 2 weeks until the trade deadline, I think.
It's like the 3rd. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It'll be like, I really wonder who's going to get Timo Meier. Because that's the guy that like I really wanted the Leafs to get. Like I'm happy with O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And now that it's happened, now that I've sat and thought about it, it probably works more for what they need.
Yeah.
But having Timo Meier in the top 6 with the season he's had and the size he has, that's going to be a big acquisition. But I guess the cost is going to be huge.
That's it. So I guess we're going to have to see where that goes. But you know what? This has been another episode of Delayed Offside. Please like, subscribe, comments at the bottom. Everybody's welcome. Leafs fans, Oilers fans, and any of the other 30 teams as well. Get in there, like it, share it, subscribe. This has been a Delayed Offside. I'm Adam.
I'm Ryan. Take care.
Have a great night.
Delayed.